open book, as it were.
Awesome. Awesome. Tell me a little bit about where you live.
Well, where I live currently, I'm in a one-bed apartment in Bristol.
Yep.
Used to live in Bath for most of my life, then got a house in Bristol, which is about 30 miles south of Bristol, on the west coast of England.
Yep.
Sort of southwest is described as.
Yeah.
And I've worked my time in the Bristol area. So I did work for a number of years in Bath, a little bit of away from that in Wells. Have you ever seen the film, oh dear, what's it called? There was like a spoof horror film. Well, you're gonna have to edit this out. I can't think of it. Hot Fuzz.
Oh yeah, Simon Pegg.
That's it. Yeah, Hot Fuzz. Well, that was filmed in Wells, and I used to work sort of, you know, the square where they have the shootout and stuff.
Yes.
That's just sort of I don't know, a few hundred yards up the road from the branch of the bank I used to work for.
Yeah, right. I also know Bristol because of the music scene. Isn't Massive Attack from Bristol?
They are indeed, yes. Yeah. I mean, they've got a lot of venues. I've seen, for many years, I've been a keen music fan and live event goer.
Yeah.
And I constantly think how amazing it was that in the days before the internet, how we got to hear about some of these gigs. And I used to buy NME and Sounds papers, pour through the live gig listings in that, and Q magazine, just to find out who was playing and when they were playing.
Yeah.
And spent many evenings going to gigs, mostly in Bristol, but sometimes further afield.
That's like the breeding ground. I've also lived in a city that had a little bit of that going on. It was like this underground heaving massive, 4 nights a week. You were like, I've got to go to all of these gigs, right? You know?
Yes, yeah. I don't think I was ever that bad. I was never really quite so many bands, but I did get to see a number that I enjoyed, and fortunately got to see them many times in some cases.
Massive Attack.
No, not Massive Attack. Lots of different bands.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
People like Steve Hillage, who used to be in a band called Gong before he was quite big on his own. He's apparently been doing a tour, and is doing a new tour in the winter, and I've got tickets to go and see him in November back in Bristol.
Yeah, nice.
Him many times before. Death Row Toll were a big band. I've seen them many times. Don Martin, absolutely phenomenal performer. Got to see him in many venues in Bristol, because he was always touring. Phenomenal performer. Yeah. Recently went to Disturbed in Ali Pali in London.
Awesome. Yeah.
To Download Festival a couple of times.
Nice. Yeah.
See some good acts there as well. So
yeah,
like my music, I'm just waiting for the new Tool album to turn up.
Yeah.
It's, I like to have an actual CD in my hand. I really don't like the idea of paying for downloads and then potentially it just disappearing in the ether when the computer crashes or something. So.
Oh yes, I my wife and I have done.
I'm old school like that.
Yeah, man. You know, audio quality. If you're an audiophile as well, like it's one of those things. And we actually, my wife and I have a CD collection which like lives in the garage because we don't have a CD player anymore. You know.
Oh no.
Well, we have.
Do you have a DVD player?
Yeah. It's just one of those.
I believe they should play on that, but. you've got a sound bar or something, it's not going to be too bad.
Yeah.
No, I like my hi-fi. I modified my own loudspeakers, made my own speaker stands out of bricks. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. And shelf for the turntable. Sadly, that's all in storage now, so got nowhere to put them. But
Yeah.
I do like my hi-fi, that's for sure.
Tell me about like when you went to that gig, you know, like let's use the Disturbed gig in London as an example. You know, I'm trying to imagine, because so disclaimer to everyone watching, I guess I did live in the UK in the mid 90s for a couple of years, and you know, smoking was a huge thing. You know, everybody smoked, and I couldn't believe that about a lot of venues or restaurants, even that, you know, smoking sections were in a basement restaurant. The table next to you, you know, no windows.
You could smoke on the aeroplanes not that long ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You know, so thinking about going to a gig, you know, people would be smoking everywhere. You know, now, sorry, disclaimer. You know, again, I'm thinking of the bigger picture. What I read about the UK vaping scene, you know, and now when you go to a gig, is it, you know, that mixture of smokers versus vapors? Is it many more people vaping at a gig?
I think that was the case, yeah. I mean, I've noticed at work as well in the last couple of years, particularly. We've got a smoking area outside of the building, and it used to be only 2 or 3 years ago that there was quite a lot of smokers, not many vapors, but now the number is probably 70-30.
Awesome.
Vapors compared to smokers.
Yeah. Okay. That's it just blows me away. It's one of those things, you know, so much stuff going on. The UK is still, you know, the UK, New Zealand, and a couple of other places, you know, for people like me living in Australia where we're getting smashed.
Yeah, I feel for you guys. Like you in the States are really suffering. I appreciate there's not a hell of a lot that we can do for you here, except, you know, like I try and repost some of the most sort of interesting or appropriate newsworthy items on my Instagram and hope that it reaches somebody that may follow me that doesn't follow somebody else that's also posting that sort of information. And, not too much else I think we can do.
Well, apparently for Australia has forgotten.
Sorry?
Yeah. I was going to say Australia has forgotten that we're part of the Commonwealth, so I don't even know why we're not even following, you know, UK's lead.
No, I don't know either. With your ministers quoting the FDA as bastions of good form to follow, it makes no sense to me. Not when the science is out there and it says otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the head in the sand. That quote is a big one that I cannot get out of my head. And it's just like, how does the rest of the world view us? Or, you know, as I'm sure the rest of the world is viewing the US, you know, it's gone past, like, I get media and all that sort of thing, but it's now into that realm of ridiculousness, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But money talks.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Look at Michigan. I mean, in my humble opinion, Governor Whitmer has just jumped on the opportunity to try and stick the knife into vaping, save their MSA money.
Yeah. Well, it pays for the flights, and it pays for the cars, and it pays for the
yeah, doesn't pay to sort their water out by all accounts. Then.
Dan Mansfield posted. I saw that one on Twitter, and he did a small thing, you know, with the adults like flavors quote, and I'm probably saying this wrong. The adults like flavors hashtag is like, what flavor is the water?
Yes, I think I saw an Instagram post of that. Well, I'm not sure who said put it out, but that was funny. Yes.
So. Let's talk about your vaping. I know you may have a couple of vape devices there. What are you currently vaping right now?
Well, my workaday carry is the good old Smoke H Priv
Yeah.
with a clone, it must be said, velocity on top.
Okay.
Carry to work with me at the moment. I've got 3 of them, and it's about the size of a pack of cards. It feels quite solid. The quality is really good. I mean, when I got the first one, I thought, yes, okay. The screen on the top does have a tendency to get a little bit of condensation or something on it, but it's convenient. I can see it with my failing eyes without my glasses. But, I'm at the right wattage. I was using the cheapo version of this is the V200.
Oh, nice. Yep.
Put the Turk V2 on the top of.
Yep.
But they've Vape have done a light version of this, which was quite good, but it kept, for whatever reason, the wattage kept adjusting itself, so it would either go down to nothing or it would go up to 200 watts, and I didn't notice. Well, I didn't notice until I hit it, put it up. You notice it then.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Thankfully, I keep my RDAs fairly wet, so it wasn't too disastrous. But
yeah,
yes, that was a bit of a shame because it's really light. It's very cheap as well.
Yeah.
So it was basically the same form factor as the V200, and I've got the new 1.8 VTEC out, which is basically the same but slightly different panel on the back. So I think I'll just stick with that. What else have I got? My E-Leaf Pico that I managed to get the replacement of. I lost a very similar setup with the original Saver by 3C Vape and Richard Vick, or Vaping Vic. Love this tank. I've got it. This is the DTL mode. I've also got it in the mouth to lung mode as well. Really enjoy that. And I think I mentioned to you earlier, this one turned up. This is my Squid Industries Squad. That's what I ordered, but yes, it's the double barrel V3, and it's very nice with a screen on the top like the Smoke H Priv.
So you got the bigger battery version of the Squad there.
Yes. Yeah, no built-in tank with this one though, but it's actually really nice. It's very similar weight to the H Priv, but quite a small form factor because of the design, I guess. It's just the barrels for the battery, and the chip must be in the top. But yeah, it's I'm enjoying it. So,
nice. Yeah, nice, man. I like to hear that, when you find something that you like, that you've got 3 of them, because I do the same. When I find something that I really like, I get a couple, because it's like, I'm asking you this question. Is it a case of like, I'm never going to be able to buy that again, or it's just the fact that I want one for work, one for home, one on the desk?
It was a case of I wanted extra mods for some of the extra RDAs and tanks that I was running, and I just thought, hell, I'd get an. I liked it so much. I've done the same thing with the Sandman and the RDA that it came with. Bless my cotton socks. Inured. That's it. The RDA that everybody hates. It had no flavour.
Yes.
I put a load of posts on Instagram because I went through a load of builds to try and get something that works, and it is cool for whatever build you have in there. But I like the flavour and the airflow on it, so I've got 2 spares of that, which I haven't used yet. But the mod is pretty decent on its own, 18650 24mm mod.
Yeah.
And I like it. So
That's an interesting point. Morton Owen was kind of came out of nowhere, right? You know, and his YouTube channel and all that discussion on, you know, airflow and I mean, you know, came out of nowhere and then instantly, you know, like was spanked, spanked for it. So,
yeah, I mean, I watched some of his videos. Sure that he had 100% of the answers, but I'm sure some of his observations were certainly valid. For instance, you can chain vape the Nord, and the top cap doesn't get hot. I mean, it is relatively thin material anyway, which means obviously it doesn't. It's not a heat sink, so it doesn't get hot and stay hot. It warms up and cools down quite quickly, like an alloy cap does. But I think the airflow that he designed for it does work. And whether it's any better flavour than anything else, I don't know. But I just enjoy it with it. I put 2 coils in it. It's designed for 1. I tried 3 coils, but that getting the proper connection for all 3 coils without any hot spots was a bit of a pain. So I dropped it down to 2 coils. So I've got a couple of aliens in that at the moment and enjoying it.
You're running dual vertical aliens in the new. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
not really. I had. I'm not sure what the build was now, but I think I had 3 aliens in it at one point. That was a bit of a feat, I think, if I do say so, to fit them in without it absolutely shorting out. But there was a couple of hot spots which meant it didn't work that well.
Yeah.
So I hoiked one of the coils out, and as a dual coil, it's working well. I enjoy it, and it doesn't really leak either. You can splurge the liquid down the top, and I enjoy the way it vapes. So I say I've got 2 more. The reason being that one of the main distributors or shops, online shops that I ordered from, eSig1, had them I think 40 quid.
Yeah.
For the mod and RDA combination kit.
Yep.
And the finish on it as well is surprisingly good. I mean, I don't take it out, to be honest, but I've dropped it a few times and it gets knocked and rubbed around against other mods, and the finish is pretty durable.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased with it.
That's an interesting point. You know, we spend so much time like looking at reviews and like looking at input of what other people have said, and then, you know, I often talk about that is the application in which you do some things is not for everybody, right? You know, where you get an Addy that most people have, you know, slammed, and then you go like, well, this is a little bit of ingenuity, and then it's working great for you. So, you know. Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, it is, and it is difficult. I mean, for somebody that's a reviewer, they have to be current, have to keep changing what they're vaping, and they have to go with whatever the trends are, because that's what they're there to do, is to show people the latest and greatest. But newest things are not always necessarily the best. Exactly.
Yeah. So talking about ingenuity, and I've spoken to you about this before, you know, as a disclaimer to the watchers, but let's talk a little bit about your vaping journey. I want to go straight to the end point. You're a person now who builds your own coils. You're wrapping your own wire. And I know the discussion that we had was about, the hobbyist side of the UK, you know, particularly with like, you know, exotic coils and that situation, you know, when was that turning point for you, you know, in your journey of like, okay, I've decided I now want to build coils for myself?
Well, it was quite early on, to be honest, because back when I started vaping, which was about early 2014, so sort of 5.5 years ago now, my initial experience was a couple of people. In fact, before I started vaping, one of the women, as it happens, she was a contractor in the bank where I worked, and she come across these electronic cigarettes, the Cigalikes, and it was really expensive for what it was, and apparently didn't work very well. And that was my first sort of contact with them. And then in the place that I work now, there was a guy. He had an E-light electronic cigarette, and I tried those. And they weren't cheap. And when it came to buying the new cartridges, they were supposed to have like 20 cigs worth of liquid in each cartridge. No way was that the case. No. So I did have a look around, and I found online the Ego batteries, 950 milliamp hour Ego batteries, and the EVOD tanks. And I thought they weren't expensive, so I ordered a couple. So I had a spare battery and a couple of spare tanks, and they worked really well. And I got off the Stinkies with vanilla tobacco flavour because I enjoyed a vanilla tobacco hand rolling tobacco, and I found one from oh dear, what are they called? Age. It's like senior moments. Oh God, I haven't ordered Liberty Flights.
Okay.
If you've heard of them out down in Australia, but I think they have a presence in America. They're in some sort of convenience stores in this country as well, and they're a good manufacturer. They're not rubbish, and they used to supply some of the concentrates like Flavor Art and Flavor Apprentice and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I managed to get hold of some vanilla tobacco flavor concentrate from them, and so I started mixing my own e-liquid. And then I came across Rip Tripper's videos back in the day when he actually did build tutorials.
Yeah.
And I learned to build by taking apart the EVOD coils and wrapping those and putting a bit of cotton in them, and that was really where my building started, because I just didn't want to pay the money to buy replacement coils all the time.
Yeah. Was it like a situation of when you know, like obviously making your own e-liquid, you gained satisfaction pretty soon, you know, but then when you built and was using, you know, cotton, was that like a massive step of like, wow, this is amazing versus what I used to have? Or was it like, okay, this is as good as, or a little bit better, so I'm going to continue? Yeah,
it was at least as good as the ready-made items. And then once I'd been doing the EVODs for a while, I was thinking, well, they are a little bit restrictive, and I would really enjoy a bit more lung-filling vapor, which the EVODs didn't have. But certainly the first hit on that with the Virginia with the vanilla tobacco, and I was thinking, yes, this is the thing.
Yeah.
And I ended up working a few years ago now in a local vape shop for a few months. They were a bit shady, but that was it. And I got my first decent mod, which was a Hannah clone. In fact, there it is, Hannah 30.
Yeah, right.
It's a DNA 30 clone. It's not a real DNA, but it did the job. And moved on from there. 30
DNA 30, that would have been huge power, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely. It was like probably 2 or 3 times. I mean, the mods back then in 2014, I guess, 15, were things like the Vamo.
Yeah.
That was that was the mod that I really fancied, and one of the guys at work had one, but he kept moaning that it kept breaking on him. So that's the Hannah's still going, even if it is down. Yeah, so enjoyed that, and that's where it sort of took off, really.
Yeah, I
RDAs after that.
Yeah, I'm also thinking a little bit about how I met you. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people online that you constantly see comments or pictures, and then there's other people that you see everywhere, and I would consider you a very multifaceted vapor, someone who is. You're not just in DIY scene. You're not just building coils. You're not just commenting and have knowledge on the high end stuff. Next thing I see a picture of you and Mike Vapes and TVC. It's like, okay, you're head first into this.
Yeah. I mean, it's been really helpful. I mean, I've not had the best couple of years recently, and having vaping as an interest. To concentrate, take my mind off things. Building, for instance, I think you might appreciate yourself when you've got to concentrate on making a coil. Everything else is out of the window.
Yeah.
I started smoking 15.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of periods. I gave up to start with on willpower, because I think when I first gave up, there was only really nicotine gum, and you had to get that from the doctor. Yeah, it was prescribed. It wasn't over the counter. And I gave up for 5 years. And then for whatever reason, I took up smoking again. But having the thing of building to concentrate on is really good. It lets you not think about some of the issues that might otherwise weigh you down when you're not building. So in that respect, it's very helpful.
Yeah.
And generally vaping, I've been interested. I sort of tend to go into it. So my other main sort of hobby was or is target shooting, but it's not something that you can do all the time.
Yeah.
The same elements there that when you're on the range and you're trying to calm yourself down to release the trigger and get that bullseye, you've got to shut everything else out. And building particularly is a good way of reproducing that at home.
Yeah, and potentially
sort
also
of Zen time, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sure I'd love to measure the brain waves of when concentration is going on and how calm everything is. Yeah, because you're focused. You have to be focused. Yeah.
I mean, to the extent I think it is a reasonably good analogy, because when you're trying to release the perfect shot, you have to be conscious and control your heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're running that wire down the core, you have to be precise.
Yeah.
And you have to do it steadily. And if you don't, you mess up. Same with shooting. If you don't release the shot at the right moment, you get a 9 instead of a 10.
Yeah. And I totally agree. And there are some days when the planets are aligning, and other days when you might be calm and everything's peachy and it just doesn't work. So
yes. Yeah. The planet's alignment is a good one.
Yeah. So the learning process with building, effectively, because I know you probably build a bunch of stuff. You're not just, like I specifically only build this because this is what I enjoy,
Yeah, I have tried, but I must be honest, I do tend to limit myself to the builds that I think are going to be vapable. Some of the more complicated things, I've never done sukas, for instance, which is the ribbon stood up, wrapped around the core wires, for anyone that doesn't build. Apparently, they don't vape that well. I've just tried to concentrate on things like frame staples and that sort of thing, or tuny flavor builds, for instance, which are relatively straightforward. They're fiddly, but there's nothing outrageous with them. But and it seems to work for me anyway.
I've got a secret theory that Addytuney is actually he's like the mob boss, and he controls everything.
He controls flavor, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you met Addytuney in person?
I haven't, sadly. No, I've communicated with him on Facebook. That's one of the things that if you ever need anything, if you reach out to Addy, he will get back to you. It's absolutely amazing, stalwart of the community, somebody that I aspire to be like. Just all round wonderful character, brilliant mixer, fantastic builder. Obviously, he's come up with his Mark II tuny flavor build.
Yeah.
Yeah, just all round wonderful person. And for whatever reason, he sought to honour me with one of his tuny K funds. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know that I deserve it, but I'm very grateful for it, and it's a wonderful device. It's incredible when you look at what he's done to take the size of the air holes out and the machining and the colouring on it. So yeah, there's a post on my Instagram that sort of gives you a bit of an idea of what's gone into that.
Yeah, I think you don't have a choice in that. You get chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he put a build in it as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Put a build in it, which is still in it. I've changed the wicks a few times, but other than that, yeah, it's still going strong.
Yeah. I think
how he does it, I don't know, because the deck is teeny weeny and it's got a multi-strand coil in it.
I think we should
twisted wire and ribbon all wrapped in a fine fuse wire.
Yeah.
And then he fit that in the K-Fun, under the K-Fun screw somehow.
I think
he's a magician, I believe.
We're going to start a new hashtag. It's called Addytuney fuckery.
Yeah, I'm with that. I'm done with that. Yes.
Awesome. Also, let's talk a little bit about so you've been to a couple of the trade shows, obviously in the UK.
I have, yeah. I've been to the one in Birmingham a number of times now.
Yep.
Hopefully going again in October.
Nice.
It's convenient for me to get to because it's only about an hour and a half's drive away.
Yep.
I've never done the London, which apparently this year was not so great. Vape Jam.
Yep.
But yeah, it's an experience. But to be honest, I went the first time, didn't really know anybody. Went on my own. It was all right. I saw what I wanted to see. Didn't buy anything. Didn't really go with the idea of buying anything. I just thought I'll go along and see what it was about.
Yeah.
But it was really with, to be honest, it was knowing that some of the bigger reviewers were going to be going. That I thought, okay, well, I'll watch all their videos. It'd be nice to meet them, and that was more the spur to go along than it was to experience the event as a whole.
Yeah.
But the UK Vapor Expo in Birmingham is a good one. I think some of the top American reviewers go back because it is so good.
Yeah. Did it meet your expectation, or like? Okay, here's my messed up questions. Did you go with the expectation of like, okay, there's going to be pumping music and, Team Free Shit is going to be there and,
I did, yeah, because I've watched, I mean, some of the reviewers like Vinny, so Vaping a lot.
Yep.
He does excellent vlogs from the shows, and you get a good idea what it's going to be like. And yeah, they have been, you know, every few stands you get pumping music, and you get all the dolly birds with with next to nothing on, and juice vendors that are sort of, oh, have you tried this? And yeah, I sort of take that with a grain of salt. I say the last one in May was really good because there's so many reviewers, and I try and support the reviewers. So many reviewers had new devices coming out. You had Matt with his Passage RDA. You had Stan with, yeah, you've got it. I've got mine, but it's in the other room.
Yep.
Yeah, there was just so many items. I've never bought so many things at a show before. Usually because I'll get them as soon as I see they're on pre-order if it's something that I want.
Yeah.
I think I've reached saturation point now, though. I've got to calm down. There's a couple of ideas coming that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Like Thesis's new one sounds quite interesting.
Yeah.
Heavy Metal Vapor's got a device, a new RDA coming out with Johnny Drips. Really like the Warrior. So looking forward to those particularly.
How do you feel about this situation with reviewers? You know, some of them are stepping back. Some of them are, you know, there's a lot of demonetization going on. You know, I mean, in your part of the world, Dean, the vaping biker, is like completely stepped back.
Yeah, he was probably the main UK reviewer that I watch or used to watch. I've watched I Get 69. Used to watch him back in the day, but he's more of a modern now. I like Richard Vick, who's Saver Tank. I enjoy. He does an excellent review still, but that's the main reviewers that I follow. So I've not really noticed, apart from Dean in the UK side of it, much at all. But then, as I say, I'm not following that many UK reviewers, to be honest.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of experience to draw from. So your educated guesses, let's call them, you know what you like, and so you're not giving into that. Okay, so the brand new shiny pretty, so I'm going to buy it. It has to have meet that certain expectation of, okay, this is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, true. I mean, I like sport. I mean, I'm a patron of Sam's, but to be honest, I mean, I'm willing to be persuaded, but I'm not that big of a tank guy. So, whereas a year or so back, I would have definitely just gone straight out and got his Blotto as
more nice
Blotto, but and of course in the UK, I mean, my parents used to refer to either the dog or whoever as they were out for the count. They would say they're Blotto,
right?
But wasn't in the completely unconscious alcohol induced state, which I think is what Sam's referring to. But so I might end up getting that one. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well, if I can offer a piece of my experience with the Blotto, I would just be saying yes.
I am getting that. I mean, a couple of reviews I've seen have said, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, and other people have been really enjoying it. So
yeah,
again, it's one of these things that probably is build dependent to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. See, that's the educated guest brain working. You can see, what the build deck looks like because you've seen it on the pictures, and straight away you'd be thinking, I know what I'm going to put in that, and I know how I want to operate it. What kind of ID, really, it's one of those ones that, and I will be expecting the check from Dovpo and Sam, from this, but it definitely is one of those ones that is a situation of, if you build it correctly, then it's going to be outstanding for you. If you try and do what it's not designed for, like many Addies, I guess, it's not going to meet your expectations. So all I can say is my experience with my particular version is pretty good.
So what build do you have in yours then, Adam?
Okay. Well, I can actually, because for some reason before I set up, I thought, I've got time to rewick this before I speak to Ian, but I didn't because I'm
You're in the middle of the morning.
Yeah, that's right. I currently I was trying something different. I ran it with 2.5 ID triple 28 aliens in it, and this build, which you can just see, is a 3 mil ID triple 27 aliens, so 2736. So it's definitely
slightly lower.
Yeah, but it's also like when you expand the material inside the chamber. Yeah, I think the performance on this is outstanding, but I preferred the triple 28s. So I'll probably put the triple 28s back in. But
cool.
It was
useful to know.
Yeah, but I also am very keen to run a single in it because I haven't done a single yet. I wanted to do something crazy like a 4 mil ID and just try it.
Would you think of putting one with like a single with parallel formers? So you're wrapping it sort of around 2 bits, so you've got oval shaped coil.
I've often thought about the different like doing a situation as opposed to just a perfect round, situation. Surface area. Yeah. See, your brain. There you go.
It's an idea. I've not. I haven't tried it. There's a couple of occasions where I think maybe I should give that a go, and I haven't got round to it. So
yeah.
I know I have seen people do that, and I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's going to give you a bigger surface area.
Yeah. See, I'm even thinking now. So when I was imagining what you were saying, I was thinking
obviously higher ohms as well. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, absolutely. When you were saying oval, I was thinking of it placed horizontal, but then I was kind of thinking if you turned it up that way, you get all that surface area. It'd be
that's a possibility as well. That would be sort of like a horizontal vertical coil.
the horror of horizontal. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's another thing I think people weren't too keen on about the Nord was the fact it's vertical.
Mm.
And if people are really keen on the freshly vaporized liquid in the gob that you get from a hot horizontal coil, you really don't get that with a vertical coil because the cap really sort of condenses the vapor before it hits your mouth. So it tends to be a slightly drier vape because of that. So a lot of people are not fond of vertical coils, even though things like that and Stan's Ardent, was it? No, what was that?
That was the vertical.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, we're easy as pie to build.
Yeah.
There's no problem, and wicking's not an issue either, really, for me anyway.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a little bit about what you see, and I know that we've discussed about your location and potentially not being in London. Even though Bristol is a bigger UK city, do you see heaps of young people with vaporizers?
To be honest, I haven't. I'm not. I mean, I'm not a big. I don't go to the city very often. There's no underage people in the vicinity of work, so I've not really seen it, to be honest. And from what I've been reading, all the research from the UK doesn't indicate that underage vaping is a major problem. Nor the underage vaping leads to actual smoking cigarettes. It's a fatuous argument. I think anywhere I can't see anybody going from an electronic cigarette to a real cigarette, unless, of course, electronic cigarettes are banned and you don't have any alternative.
Yeah. The people that you work with, you know, if it is kind of that 70-30 situation, are people mostly using one of those, or are they using a cloudy device?
I would say a lot of people are using tanks and pens. A few people are using pod type things like the Infinix or whatever.
Yep.
But mostly, I think people are using smaller mods with tanks that are refillable. That's what I see most of my colleagues using. Do have one colleague who is using a heat not burn jobby. Can't remember what the name is.
The IQOS.
Yeah, IQOS thing. Yeah, but he's the only one of all the people I see when I go for my vape break.
Yeah.
He's the only one I've seen using one of those.
Do people, you know, ask you, what are you doing? And then when you tell them, you know, this is a rebuildable, they're like, oh, you know.
No, not really. I'm a bit of an antisocial bugger. So I usually go out at the same time as a friend who smokes, but he only has 4 or 5 cigarettes a day, and you know, you can only go so far without wearing out your welcome. So I've offered to go with him to try and find a device or give him one of mine, and so far he's not convinced. So
yeah, it's that's a very valid point. But you can help as much as you want, but you know, if someone doesn't have that inkling themselves, yeah. I didn't want to say it out loud, but I probably will. It's almost a population control in that situation. I don't mean that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I should probably edit that out. Let's talk about the you know, maybe a little bit of the future of vaping. You know, there's, like what you were discussing with the squid, that all-in-one device. You know, these devices are getting better and better. You know, do you have a bit of a prophecy of where you think, you know, devices are going to go?
I don't, to be honest. I mean, obviously, what people buy determines what manufacturers are going to create. You know, what us hobbyists are interested in probably doesn't represent a big enough portion of the market for us to determine what direction it's going to go in. It's the usual cycle. I think probably the Chinese manufacturers are going to ride the pod wave until pods become less popular and something else will take over.
Yeah.
I mean, it may be that we just see. I mean, we've got, I can't remember the name of it, but there's that huge pod thing that recently come out with a little pod in the top, but the mod's like a brick. I can't really see that one doing very well, to be honest.
Yeah.
But generally, no, I'm not sure. By all accounts, RDAs and rebuildables are on the wane, and which I can see from the manufacturer's point of view is less profitable for them to produce pods, because there's a lot more elements to them. An RDA is relatively simple and straightforward, and they're only one element. With a pod, you've got the battery, the casing, charging elements, what the pod itself is going to contain, etc. So whilst they're cheap, I can't imagine that they're particularly cheap to develop. But,
do you actually have, you know,
I do. I have an Infinix. I have a Boulder Rock. I bought a couple of those. I've given one away to a friend. But the Boulder is it's a fantastic little device for $10. It comes with the pod, the battery, and a 10 ml of 18 milligram standard nic e-liquid, I believe. At least that was the case when I got mine a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I imported a few from the States, so it ended up costing more than $10 a unit. They're really, really effective. And if I was living in the States, I'd be buying them and handing them out to everybody, because
Yeah.
it's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
I don't use mine all the time, but it's always charged. And I also have a Smoke Infinix,
Yep.
which I quite enjoy for super stealthy events like in the cinema or other things where you're not supposed to. So yeah, so I do enjoy them occasionally, but mostly I like RDAs and tanks.
Yeah.
Mostly RDAs, to be fair.
Yeah. Is there, I mean, I know you're not a huge tank user, but, tell me a little bit about the murmurings of the TPD compliance,
To be honest, I'm not really au fait with any situation there. I know, or at least my understanding, and this may be out of date, is that, for instance, like the Saver came with a 2 mil tank. So this is why I had to buy an outsized napkin ring to increase the capacity to, I think it's 5 mils. Because it couldn't be sold as a tank with bigger than 2 mil capacity.
Yeah. Hey, hang on, hold that up again. You've got a 5 mil capacity on your Saver.
Yes.
Outstanding.
I can hook you up if you are interested in obtaining one of those for yourself.
Yeah, right. We'll talk about that later. Okay, but
it's the website Just Add Nick.
Okay.
And they're really good. They're sold. If you look at, I think if you search napkin rings, they're sold as over napkin rings.
Napkin ring, yeah. So also, I don't. Well, there's a lot of people that say this is the wrong term, but freebase Nick or Sotnik, which are you?
I've tried. I've got some free samples of the Stig pods.
Oh, yeah.
All in one, a battery and thing, and it's great flavour. The Cubano,
yep,
which is like a tobacco-y flavoured one, really, really nice. But no, I'm not doing it. Salts, no, not really interested at all.
Pretty contentious issue.
On the matter is, my feeling on the matter is that I've worked my way down to 3 mil Nick, and I did have a discussion with somebody fairly well known on this topic, who doesn't actually use Nick himself. He vapes unnicked e-liquid, 0 milligram. But he was saying his view was that with the Sotnik, you're getting a lot of nicotine, and then you don't need to repeat that experience for however long. My feeling is that used to be the case when I smoked. You crave that hit from the first puff or two of your cigarette, and I've got away from that now.
Yeah.
When I'm at work, I don't sit in the office and crave my cigarette break at lunchtime. I'm happy. I've worked occasionally without stopping and going out for a puff. I enjoy the nicotine. It doesn't really give me the buzz that I used to get from hitting a cigarette. And why would I want to increase my nicotine level to have that need to go back to it every however long, half an hour or an hour, like I used to with a cigarette. I think I've got myself away from that. I'm enjoying the nicotine that I have. I use 3 mil commercial e-liquid, and I make my own at 4 milligrams normally.
Yeah.
For my mouth lung saver, I use 12 milligrams.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't see the sense in increasing my nicotine consumption. If people are on 12 milligrams, I think that's fine. If you're happy with that and that keeps you satisfied and away from cigarettes, that's great. But I've got down to 3 milligram. I'm not vaping gallons a day, which some theorize. Well, if you're only using 3 milligrams nic, then you're going to be vaping 30 mil a day, as opposed to 50 milligrams nic and vaping 3 mil a day. I don't really think that quite correlates, at least not in my case, not my experience. So
Yeah.
I don't want to get back to that dependency on nicotine, so I've got no interest in having high milligram nic salts.
Yeah. It's an interesting point, though. I think also that people don't talk about that enough is that even, nicotine dependency, I don't like to use the word addiction because addiction is a very strong, very specific definition, right? But even that thing of, okay, so now I've been vaping for a little while and, I realize I'm using the term I am now a vapor and I'm no longer a smoker. I also didn't get that. I don't have that antsy feeling of, I must crave, I must satisfy that need. I'm not destroying my pens and I'm eating my nails and that whole situation. I agree totally is, that it can be at my day job, I might not, get to use one of these for 4 hours at a go sometimes, it's like, I'm actually totally okay with that, so I think you get into that situation of, yes, I do consume nicotine, but it's not the point of like, I've got to stop everything I'm doing to
no, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I mean, that may well not be the case for a lot of people. And for some, I mean, I don't know, back when I first started vaping, as I had done when I gave up cigarettes cold turkey, for a long time afterwards, I'd have like dreams of smoking and wanting a cigarette and occasionally craving one. And eventually that goes away.
Yeah. Were you a dual user at any point?
Not really, no. I basically, I've, as I say, I found this e-liquid from Liberty Flights, this vanilla tobacco, in the Ego pod and or EVOD tank, and I hit that and I thought, yeah, that's it. And that really worked. I mean, as I say, I had tried the e-lights, e-cigs, and they sort of worked. But when they got towards the end and it came time to buy a fresh pack of pods, it was cheaper actually to buy a packet of hand rolling tobacco and some fag papers than it was to buy another pack of cartridges. So I ended up for a while hand rolling again until I discovered the EVODs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I don't want to imagine a world where these products get taxed beyond belief that they go back to that original situation of being more expensive than something that is far worse for you. That would be a horrible scenario.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think also.
No, I never actually dual used.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to note, since I started vaping, one of my best friends used to smoke, and he dual used for a while, but was never encouraged enough to keep on using it. So he did stop for a while, but yeah,
I think,
it's not something that I actually found I needed. Once I got the EVOD, it was pretty plain, to be honest.
I also, for me, maybe this is just my messed up mind, but I correlate caffeine and nicotine as a, you know, adult dependency. And, you know, if I was to drink, you know, 8 cups of coffee a day, someone might say, oh, that's a lot of coffee, but they would never be like, okay, you're really properly doing yourself some damage with all of this caffeine. You know, I just, it's one of those things, you know, Thomas was saying in the last one I did of these, Thomas Crow, you know, he's like, I don't want to stop nicotine, you know, and
that was my feeling as well.
Exactly right. You know, and I was like that. I was very not surprised. I was actually very happy that someone had finally said, I want to do this, as opposed to, well, I'd like to, you know, slow down a bit, or, you know, I was like, that's amazing. So, you know, again, that correlation of coffee, you know, I'm drinking 6 cups a day. Yeah, you know, it's not healthy for you. And but in the same vein, that's your choice, you know. So
yes, I think for some people though, they do have a dependency on coffee.
Totally.
So it's not, again, it's something. I mean, I used to enjoy coffee. I used to have 4 or 5 mugs a day with like 2 spoonfuls of Nescafe in it. So you might not actually call that coffee, but I believe it had caffeine in it. I used to get the caffeine withdrawal headaches.
Yeah.
One weekend I was away with I used to ride with a motorcycle club, and we all went away to the coast for a camping weekend. We drank lots of beer, but had no coffee the entire weekend. And when I got home, I realised that I didn't get I might have had, but I didn't have a coffee headache. So I gave up coffee for about 20 years as well.
20 years?
Yeah, never drank. And I'd eat coffee flavoured cake, but I never had another cup of coffee. That changed a few years ago, but and now I'm enjoying a nice cup of coffee thanks to your help as well.
Yeah, awesome. I'd say that, you know, that's the overarching situation of this, is that, you know, peer advice, or, you know, asking the question, you know, people not being afraid to say, you know, where can I go? What can I do? You know, what else is out there? You know, it's being comfortable saying, you know, not that you did this, but, you know, the overarching situation of, you know, I would like to try something different, you know. That's a huge thing. And appreciation then is, you know, it more than meets your expectation, because you're just thinking, okay, I drank Nescafe. I've been shown somewhere else, which is very different, you know, and like, it was like, okay, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, definitely. Magnitude's finer.
Yeah.
Your experience. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. And I feel like we could talk for hours, you know, but I certainly, I'm sure that there are many others in the community that would, you know, say thank you and in appreciation of the comments and the presence and, you know, the support, because that's what people like yourself give. You give support to those others in the community that, whether they ask for it or not, you know, it's just given. So, you know, I'm sure we all appreciate what it is that you do.
Thank you. I don't really know what it is I do. I just try and be supportive and appreciate things in the way that I would like to have my efforts appreciated sometimes, or everybody probably wishes to have their efforts appreciated. So yeah.